Center. I'm Josh Fenton, fresh off of vacation week and raring to go, fired up.
Welcome
Neil
back.
Fine is here. Neil's running a pretty interesting company called Aquanis, a tech company looking to build new strategies for really the wind industry.
That's right.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about the technology. It is high science at its best.
I think so, but well, thanks for having me, Josh.
Absolutely.
So we're developing a new technology that will go on future wind turbines.
Yeah.
And will enable those turbines to react almost instantly to changes in the wind. So if you think about right now, wind turbines are built to withstand unsteady aerodynamic forces caused by turbulence, gusts, wind shear, and that kind of thing. And that makes them heavy and expensive.
Right.
So
and they're big. Like
they're
people
huge.
don't realize how big a city block, a single blade is a city block long.
That's right. And the diameter of today's turbines is bigger than the wingspan of an A380, which is the largest aircraft out there. But if wind turbines could react quickly to change the wind, then designers could build them with less material at lower cost, and that would be disruptive.
And your technology does exactly what? It is...
Well, so it's a device. It's an actuator is the technical term that goes on the wind.
We need actuators here at
We need
GoLocal, right?
Absolutely. So first thing to understand is that wind turbine blades act just like wings do.
Yeah,
right? They are, wind flows over the blades, and we actually borrow the term lift from the aircraft aerodynamics community. They generate lift, and that's what causes them to spin. And our device will go on the blades and will allow the local lift to be changed on demand, basically. And that's you do it now on wings using a trailing edge flap, right? At the end of the wings, you can see the flaps, and they move sometimes in reaction to changes in the wind. Our device is disruptive because it does that job without any moving parts. Purely electrical device.
Gotcha. And today, if you go by one of the wind projects, if you go down 95 and see them down in Fields Point, sometimes they're rotating and sometimes they're not rotating. And they're off because they're being shut off for different reasons.
I mean, that's individual turbines, distributed wind turbines are not contributing to a farm, so they're going to be on when the grid demands it.
Right.
Usually with wind farms, you have 100 or more turbines that act in concert, and the grid will send a command for how much electricity it needs. And so yes, they'll have to. It's called, the technical term is curtailment.
Right.
They'll have to shut them off.
And will your technology allow greater efficiency, greater production? Besides the decreased cost potentially of the cost to construct them.
Right. Well, our game is, and the game of the industry is to drive the cost of energy down.
Right.
So the cost of energy has fallen for wind steadily, pretty much for the last 10 or 20 years.
Keep going.
And as a result, we have more and more electricity. That's the grid demand that's being met by wind. We want more of that. It's a clean source. So we want the cost of energy to continue going down. Now, historically, the way we do that in the industry is to grow our turbines larger and larger. Our technology allows the turbine manufacturers to go larger and continue to reduce the cost of energy.
And talk about where you are in the maturation of this company. You've got a product. Yeah. You've received a variety of different seed fundings, both from state, private investors, federal, SBIR grant, as well as some funding from Commerce, correct?
Correct, that's right.
And where are you?
Well, we've raised about $1 million in seed funding, combination of investor funding and the grants that you mentioned. We have an NSF SBIR grant, and we have a DOE SBIR grant. And these will, this amount of money will carry us to a prototype that we can then test in a wind tunnel.
Right.
Beyond that, we need to get to a point where we can get on a wind turbine and test it. And that's the data that we need to convince our customers, the manufacturers, to buy our products. So we're still, several years away from
and when you say your customer, it's the GEs, it's the major wind turbine manufacturers, not the engines per se, but the actual blades.
The actual turbine manufacturers.
Yeah.
So there's about there's maybe 20 of them worldwide. 12 of them or so occupy about 70% of the market. So our number of customers is small, but the trick is to get to the right people that are making decisions in those organizations in order to finally make sales.
And how does a small band of smart guys in East Greenwich, Rhode Island, transform the wind industry globally?
One step at a time. I think it starts with having a good technical plan. Our critical path goes right through the technology.
Yeah.
We get our name and get our technology out there through publications, through presentations, through collaborations. We've done all of those things.
Right.
And we have managed to start conversations with a number of those manufacturers who are now on the front lines watching us develop our technology.
And, we're seeing mammoth growth, obviously, Rhode Island being the home of the next segment after this segment is sponsored by Deepwater Wind. And so, Jeff's over here from time to time, the CEO of Deepwater. Obviously, the success that they've had off of Block Island, now 2 major announcements from them. They're looking at 600 additional megawatts. Are we just at the very, very incremental first steps of what this industry is going to look like?
I think we are, and I think it is poised to grow tremendously. We already have significant offshore wind in Europe,
right?
And I think we're just getting the pieces in place here on the East Coast to get started.
We were in Ireland on the West Coast near Galway, and looking out across a harbor of where we were staying, and up on the peninsula across was on land a huge wind farm dedicated there with massive structures, and there had to be, you could see 20 of them off in the distance, probably 10 miles away. But there's so much further ahead. We're still debating. We've still got NIMBYism here. Do you see when that's going to completely break loose and that we'll see this sort of explosion?
I think we're already seeing it. I mean, we have more than quadrupled the number of wind turbines and wind farms in the United States over the last 10 years alone. And we're now getting almost 6%, maybe a little bit over 6% of our domestic grid demand comes from wind.
Right.
Whereas 10 years ago it was 1%.
Less. And what's that market opportunity for you? I mean, if you break through, this becomes a commercialized, mature product, and you can start getting it spec'd into the development of the next generation. Where do you see this? Are you a $5 million company, a $50 million company, $1 billion? Are we friends and family? Are we going to all be here at GoLocal, going to be able to get in on the IPO?
I hope so, absolutely. So the addressable market here in the States is probably about $100 million.
Yeah.
Globally, about $600 million. But that doesn't include the retrofit market. If we can get into repowering and retrofitting, then you can double those numbers, and we're in the
and you're already seeing that take place. The life cycle of these, the technology gets better almost instantaneously.
Right.
The retrofitting's going on all the time. Probably the best known in Rhode Island is the one in Portsmouth. That's already been completely rehabbed, re-engineered, has new blades, a new motor, etc.
Right.
And rumors are that the one that's down at the Abbey is going to be next.
Well, we shouldn't judge wind energy based on our local failures.
Yeah, right.
We should judge it based on what we see in the interior of the U.S.
Yeah.
Where the price of wind energy is now comparable to the price of conventional sources. It's even less if you include the effects of the subsidies.
And you've got a hardy small team, all with lots of letters after their names from MIT and et cetera. What kind of job creation is this going to generate here? And do you see it, can Rhode Island help you grow this company
Absolutely.
and sustain it here?
Absolutely, yeah. We are committed to building our team here in Rhode Island, and our first choice is to manufacture ourselves here in Rhode Island. And the state has helped us, and will continue to help us, I'm sure.
Talk a little bit about that. Talk about the state process. You know, we hear good stories and bad stories. Talk about what your experience has been.
It's been great. So we have tapped into resources at Rhode Island Commerce Corporation through their innovation voucher program, and through their SBIR matching programs, as well as through their internship grants programs, which we're doing now. The reason, what I've told people in the past is that the SBIR match is huge because these other SBIR programs like NSF don't allow
National Science
Foundation don't allow you to use those funds to buy equipment.
Right.
So it's really anything over $5,000 can't be bought with those funds. So through the SBIR matching program, we got $45,000 that we could use to buy the equipment that we needed. It was critical.
Great. And the process?
Process has been fine. The people at our ACCE are extremely professional, extremely responsive. They've come to visit us several times. Their outreach has been good. And we work really closely with them and really well.
Great. And do you see Brown and URI as kind of their engineering programs as potentially feeders to you?
Well, they have been. So we have a Brown student right now as an intern. I've had personally Brown
We've got a Brown intern too.
Do you? Aren't they great?
Yeah, maybe we can get some competition going.
I've also got one from Rhode Island College who's fantastic as well.
Great.
But we used a Brown professor to do some work for us through the Innovation Voucher Program.
Oh, great.
So the state gave her a $50,000 grant to help us with our problems, and that was tremendously successful.
Great. What else should people know? What's next? What's the next milestone for you guys?
The next milestone for us is to bring in significant grant funding, either through the NSF SBIR Phase 2 program, which we're in the process of applying for, or through what's known as an ARPA-E grant. So ARPA-E is the Department of Energy's DARPA, which most people are familiar with, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, and the ARPA-E is the energy version of that. And they provide funding for higher risk, high payoff technology developments in larger amounts. So we've recently applied for a $3.5 million grant through ARPA-E. It's a very competitive, extremely competitive program where they had 3,000 applicants to their pre-proposal process. We were one of the 10% that got through that part of it, and we're invited to submit a full proposal application. We should find out about that towards the end of this year.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's great to have you. We love hearing about, first of all, we love entrepreneurs. This is an entrepreneurial company. We love people who are disrupting. The pace of change is just, right now, is so insanely creative.
So important.
Yeah, absolutely. What you thought was the norm, what you thought was the future is just being usurped all the time, and got to be planning ahead. And love having companies that come in and are creating something, organically, de facto from scratch. That's transformative.
Well. Yeah.
So we really appreciate, Neil, you coming on in. We're going to be back in just a minute. We're going to take a 1-second break, and we'll be right back. Congratulations to Neil Fine and his team on their success and building another, hopefully, great company here in Rhode Island. We'll be right back.